Cenobite, how dare you go fly? How dare you go fly instead of watching my live stream? How dare How about now? Yeah. Sorry about that. I got it. You're like 10 seconds behind me. I don't need 500 people to tell me there's no audio. Hey guys. It's fixed. I know. Sorry, I'm a little tired this week. I don't know if you heard. Gee, Are you for real? How do you not show that? Oh, the left. There we go. I don't know if you heard. But I've been busy this week. Yeah, so actually, I'm not actually tired right now because I've been up all night with a baby, although I do have a new baby this week. I'm actually tired because my washing machine stopped working this weekend, and the washer repair guy came this morning, and he wanted to come at really early. So I got up really early to meet him. I thought about saying to Issa, you're going to be up with the baby anyway, so why don't you just meet the washing machine? That didn't seem like a good idea, though. So I didn't do that. So here I am. Back. I missed last week because we were literally in the hospital. Everybody's home now. Everybody's wonderful. Everybody's great. I don't usually make a big deal out of my personal stuff, but just for the question, since you guys are going to be asking. And if I'm a little tired this tonight or a little bit low energy, drone shots. Not only can I not fix the washer, but the dude who came in to look at it was just like, needs a new part. I'm like, aren't you going to open it up? Aren't you going to look at it? I searched Samsung front load washer E3 error. And I saw what the service manual said you were supposed to do. And when he came over, he didn't do any of that stuff. He just looked at it and was like, yeah, I think it's a Hall sensor. And I'm like, are you so good that you could just look at it and know it's the Hall sensor? Or are you just lazy and you just want to charge me $500 for a new stator? I don't know. But I didn't fix my washer. Hey, Skull Drones. Hello from Brazil. Hello. Yeah, Flyboy Vaughn. Time for a new repairman. For $100, I want you to at least pretend to open up the washer and look at it. I feel like that's fair. Anyway. Okay, so we're going to have a stream. It's my first stream back. I'm a little bit tired, but we're going to try to. And people were betting on what I'm drinking. I'm not drinking anything tonight. I had just a little fruit punch thing, but no. Let's see here. Let's do the intro. I'm Joshua Bardwell. This is my Q&A. You guys know the drill. You ask me questions in the chat. I try to answer as many of them as I can. It's a little bit hectic. It's a little bit crazy. Here is my window. In case you're wondering, here's the Twitch chat or the YouTube chat, all scrolling by. Here is the super chats. If you feel like making your questions stand out from all the questions scrolling by the. I do my best to answer as many of them as I can, but I can never get to them all. If you want to make yours stand out, hit the $, show your support, buy my baby some diapers. Throw a couple bucks. You'll get down in the super chats, and I will make sure to get your question. And Wait a second. FPV Nodal. Live stream chat. Hey, Swamp Dog. What's up, buddy? Yeah, no. Thank you, Terminal LCPL. My patrons, the folks, there's a link to my Patreon page down in the video description below. And if you want to become a patron for $2, a minimum of $2 a month or more if you prefer, you can get on my Discord. You can ask questions down there. So let's get to the questions. Betaflight won't arm my quad. Heath McTaggart. Betaflight won't arm my quad. Here is the answer. Heath McTaggart, you're going to need to go. Why is there no audio from that thing? Is that muted? Oh, it is muted. Heath McTaggart, I'm going to suggest you check this video out. The answer to your question, Heath, I'm going to paste it and I'm going to mention you in the chat. But Betaflight, you're going to go into the on-screen display, the OSD tab, and you're going to turn on the warnings element. I always fly with the warnings element turned on. In fact, let me grab a quad here to use as our demo quad. I was actually flying this quad earlier today. I know. How can I have time to fly when I have a newborn baby in the house? Well, it's my job. No, but seriously, I have a headache right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into Heath McTaggart. Heath McTaggart, we're talking to you. We're going to go into the OSD tab, and you're going to make sure that the warning OSD element is turned on. There it is, warnings right here. And you're going to make sure that the arming disabled option is enabled, which is that's on by default. And then nope, wrong. There we go. Then when you try to fly the quad on the OSD, a warning status will pop up telling you why you can't arm. And at that point, go back to that video I linked, and there's a playlist with a different video for how to troubleshoot each of the possible error status codes. That's the answer. Anytime Betaflight won't arm, that's the answer. First, get the arming status code. Second, look up my video about that arming status code, and you'll figure out how to do that. I'm in the wrong freaking... Yeah, there we go. That's finishing touch. That's 2 kids total for me. That's 2 total. People are like, oh, your life's going to change. I'm like, well, actually, it kind of already did a little while ago. I mean, the second kid is obviously going to be different than having just one, but there we go. My sinuses are never clear, Rick James. They just never are. I'm always a little bit sniffly, especially during the spring. That's why I have a headache, because I'm taking my allergy medicine. All right, we got one question down from Heath McTaggart. Keith Mathis asks, how important is it to actually, I got to talk a lot faster or I'm not going to get to your questions. How important is it to actually discharge my batteries when I'm not flying, bring them down to storage voltage? It's kind of important. It's kind of important, Kevin Mathis. There was a website, I think it was lipobench.de, that did a test where they concluded 5% reduction in battery performance. I'm not sure how they characterized performance, but 5% reduction in performance after 30 days at full charge, which, if you think about it, that's actually not that much, but at the same time, it's something. So if you charge your packs, Kevin, and you charge them and you're going to fly on Saturday, but you don't get to fly till Sunday, don't sweat it. Personally, after a day or two, I tend to try to get them down to storage. It's really cumulative. So one day, 30 times, or 30 days all at once, I'm pretty sure it's just about the same amount of degradation. But it's just the less time they spend at full charge, the better. But then again, discharging and charging them also hurts them. So, for me, it's a couple days. Although sometimes I get back from a trip and I'll just forget and I'll leave packs fully charged for a week. There you go. Okay. Tips on solving jello, asks CF. CF, for jello, let's start with the assumption that you have done everything right in terms of making your quad tight, making sure all your screws are tight, there's no broken standoffs, there's no blatant sources of vibration. And then how do you get rid of jello after that? The answer is, in your GoPro, if you have a GoPro, lock the ISO at the lowest value you can. You want the lowest ISO you can get. For a Hero Session, that's 400 ISO. For a GoPro Hero, it's usually 100 ISO. And that will force the shutter speed to be as slow as possible, which will maximize motion blur, which actually is normally a bad thing because you don't want too much blur. But for fast-moving quadcopters, blur looks pretty good, and it helps hide jello. The other thing you can do, that's usually not enough all by itself, but the other thing you can do is you can add an ND filter. There's various types of ND filters you can get for your GoPro. Some of them are like just stick on film, like window tint. Those are pretty crappy. They just really look bad, and it's hard to get them on without bubbles. Some of them are a kind of tempered glass with a tint, and some of them actually have a little it goes around the outside of your camera. Look for an ND filter and use those, and that will help get rid of jello. The real answer is to have a quadcopter with as little vibration as possible, because ultimately that is. But if you look at like some of Ladrib's quadcopters, they're beat to hell. The motors are all imbalanced, and yet somehow he has beautiful, beautiful footage. And I think the ND filter is part of the key. All the pros are flying with ND filters on. Not the racers, obviously, but all the pro freestyle pilots whose footage you love, they have ND filters. That's the secret. It's not really a secret. You just haven't heard of it yet, some of you. Okay. What's the best way to sell gear, asks Storm FPV. The RC Group's Classifieds. In my opinion, that's the best way. If you go to rcgroups.com, oh, I have some messages. Don't message me on RC Groups. I'm here like once a month at most. It's not going to work. If you go to rcgroups.com and you hit the classifieds, there's a section, probably like multi-rotor. Yeah, aircraft electric multi-rotor, and you can sell multi-rotors there. That's whenever I have gear to sell, that's usually where I try to sell it. You can try like on Facebook Marketplace, but like for a racing drone, it's going to be pretty hard to sell there. You probably can sell it on RC Groups. That's where I go. Okay, let me see here. Does Ladrib use motion smoothing? License to drive? No. License to drive Ladrib, as far as I know, and I've seen him edit, he doesn't use anything like Real Steady. That's just, and I've also seen him fly. That's just what his footage looks like. He is very smooth on the sticks, and what I don't understand is how his footage looks so smooth when his motors are like half the time they're beat to hell. His frame is broken. Somehow he gets smooth footage out of it. It's possible that he's smoothing. I mean, his footage doesn't look smooth. If you're subtle, it doesn't have to look smooth, but I don't think he uses it. I've never seen him use it. Let's see. Good. Hangtime FPV, lipobench.de. There's the link. Okay. Portal FPV, I wanted to try Betaflight 4.0, but after installing Betaflight 4.0, my ESCs don't go through the whole boot chime. Portal FPV, definitely double check your motor protocol. Make sure that you're using DShot 600, whatever it was that you were using. There's nothing about Betaflight 4.0 that should cause the boot chime to break, so I'm going to guess that the default motor protocol changed and your ESCs don't like it. Daniel Grafton, my Mobula 7 has power through the USB, but not the XT30. Every time your quadcopter, your flight controller has power from USB, but not the battery, that means the 5-volt regulator has died. That's 99.9999% of the time. That's what it means. The reason is that the USB port provides 5-volt power natively from the computer, so the flight controller will light up then. But the fix to that, you can get an external 5-volt regulator like a Pololu or some cheap Chinese one off of Amazon or Banggood, but most of the time it just means that you're getting a new flight controller. It's usually not worth the trouble, especially for a micro where you have to save as much weight as possible. I'm going to jump now. Woo! Lots of them coming by. I'm going to jump now real quick over to the Discord. I got a couple questions coming in my Discord server. I'll be back, YouTube chat. Don't leave me, YouTube chat. I'll be back. I'm coming back, baby. Don't worry. Just going out for cigarettes. That got weird. CTK in the Discord asks, do you still prefer Unify Pro versus Tramp? Yep, I do. The Tramp is a great video transmitter, and part of the reason that Tramps annoy me is that Immersion RC has a hard time keeping things in stock. This is true for everybody in the RC industry, but Immersion RC specifically seems to have long periods where you cannot get like a tramp, and and it really bugs me to not be able to buy spares when I need them. The other thing about the tramp is it's just a little bit thicker than like the Unify, and especially for slammed builds, that extra millimeter or two of space definitely matters. The tramp is a great video transmitter, and I do like it, but lately I've been using the Unify HV. So there you go. IV asks, even after I was a dick, I think IV, I'm going to prove that comment because, you know, I think YouTube just didn't like the fact that you said the word dick, but that's okay. Which line sounded rehearsed? Oh, I know the line. You know what? I don't know. You can take that whole thing. Oh, even after Trappy was a dick. I see. IV. IV, if I stopped using TBS equipment every time Trappy was a dick, right. Do I need to finish that sentence? Trappy is who Trappy is. He's very passionate about his products and about his company. I understand why he was annoyed to wake up in the middle of the night with an inbox full of people saying he was a fraud and a liar. So that was never my intention to cause that. Sometimes I forget that people take the things I say. I mean, like, I don't know what I expected to happen, but no, it's still a good product. And for the most part, if there's good product, I'll use it regardless of, you know, the people behind it, mostly. Technobabbler, evening Technobabbler. Chamer, I swapped to Betaflight 4.0, tried to fly. It took off about 5 feet and reset. So I checked all my power wires. Nothing messed up. I replaced them all. Then when I went back to 3.5, it's doing the same thing. What could be the issue? Chamer, and anybody else who has this problem, you arm the quad, you raise the throttle, and it goes and disarms. The answer to that is probably a thing called runaway. Pardon me. And here is the video about runaway, troubleshooting runaway, and what runaway is. Chamer, I'm going to paste this into the Discord chat, and I'll paste this into the YouTube chat as well. Runaway occurs when, as the flight controller tries to make the quad fly, the quad starts doing something that the flight controller is like, what? Why? No, stop. So the flight controller says, hey, let's roll to the left just a little bit. And the quad goes, blah, and rolls to the right. Pardon me. And the flight controller goes, something ain't right here, just stop. Now, what used to happen before Betaflight had the runaway protection was the quad would go and flip out. And then, you know, kill your puppy and eat your face off. So runaway protection shuts the quad down. Most likely, when you're getting a runaway, it means that you got a motor direction wrong, the props on wrong, the board alignment is wrong, those things that cause the quad to have the Tasmanian devil flip out. However, sometimes, especially with these micro quads, if you take off, the runaway protection is not disabled until the throttle goes above 25%. So if you take off and you're at about 20% and you're just cruising and then you bonk something, the PID controller goes, what? And shuts down. So what I do on all my quads is I set the runaway throttle percent to 5%. Hang on. Let's see. Yeah. Runaway takeoff, deactivate, throttle percent. It's a really long frickin' thing. Name for the thing, but I set it to 5%. The default's 25%. And what that means is that as soon as my throttle goes above 5%, runaway takeoff protection is disarmed, and that prevents it from accidentally disarming. What really got me doing that was one day I took off and I was slowly climbing and I was maybe at 20% throttle, and I go to do a little move over a tree branch and I bonk the tree branch and the quad just shuts down and falls 20 feet out of the sky. I'm like, never again. So Chamer, those are some things to think about. It is probably runaway protection. One of these things. Check that video. Chamer says, I swapped batteries. I even bought a new one because everyone said it was a power problem. Here's how to tell if your battery is the problem. If you hear the ESCs go doo-doo-doo, that means you lost power. And if you see the Betaflight logo pop up in your goggles, that means you lost power. If you don't see those things, then you didn't lose power. Hangtime FPV, you can set the pilot's name in Betaflight before 4.0. It's in the configuration tab, and it's in the craft name parameter. How do you record elevated customs? How do you record raw gyro information using Blackbox logs? Elevated customs, here's what you want. You want to type set debug underscore mode. Wow. I don't know. I haven't sneezed all day, and I start live streaming and I start sneezing. What are you going to do? Set debug mode equals gyro underscore scaled. That is what you want to do, elevated customs. I'm going to paste that in the Discord for you there, dude. That's what you want, and then type save. Alrighty, back. That's the Discord. We're caught up now. Now we're going to get to the super chats. The super chats. I always feel like a real streamer when I get super chats. I watch Dr. Disrespect and, you know, all those other guys, the gaming streamers, and they're getting just, you know, contributions everywhere. I always feel like a real streamer when you guys send me chats. Thank you. Kush FPV, $10. Thank you. Love from Kush. Thank you. Paul Giusti, $20. Thank you. My baby's diapers. Oh, that's Swamp Dog. Thank you, Swamp Dog. Ceramex, $2 Canadian. Best dollars. Thoughts on the Foxeer Box 2 and the RunCam 5. Ceramex, I've only seen the Foxeer Box 2, what Oscar Leong has posted. It looks really good. One of the things I look for in these new cameras is something similar to SuperView. And it's difficult because SuperView is patented by GoPro, so no one else can do exactly that. What SuperView does is it takes the 4:3 image sensor and it stretches it to fill a widescreen 16:9 frame, but it's a non-linear stretch, so the center of the image looks unstretched and only the edges are stretched, and it's really good looking. Gives you great vertical field of view. The key to making a camera like the Foxeer Box or the RunCam 5 work for me will be, well, number one, just image quality. Fine. But number two, I really like that large vertical field of view. And some other vendors have tried to do a SuperView-like field of view by just having a big fisheye-like lens. I will say what I've seen from Oscar Leong about the Foxeer Box has been very nice. And what I've seen of the RunCam 5 has been very nice. At the end of the day, I won't have a final opinion until I get to try them myself. Terminal LCPL, $2, thanks. Congrats on the baby. Thank you. Jordan Coward, $2. 4S parallel board displays different than ISDT charger. Fix. Jordan Coward, you were probably talking about my parallel charge board. The voltage checker on my parallel charge board is not really calibrated at all. The main goal of that is just to tell you if it's safe to plug the batteries in. It's never really intended as like a full-on battery checker. So, believe your ISDT charger. Don't believe my parallel charge board. It's just to say, are these batteries about the same voltage as each other to make them safe to plug in? I've asked if there's something we can do at the factory to calibrate them. But the problem is that as soon as we do that, it's a lot of labor. If we have to calibrate every single one, it's potentially a lot of labor. So I don't know, but it seems like it should be able to be done, right? Anyway, In Drone Productions, SEK 50, SEK dollars, Swedish kroners, that is. Does the Betaflight Lua script function like normal if I connect smart audio to an external channel on a Crossfire receiver instead of a UART? So in case anybody's not clear, if you have a Crossfire receiver and you have a Unify VTX or any other smart audio capable VTX, you can actually connect the VTX directly to IO4 is the pin on the Crossfire receiver and do smart audio that way without taking up a UART on your flight controller. Yay! But the problem is that you must then use the Crossfire Lua script or the Crossfire module in order to control the VTX. You cannot use the Betaflight Lua script or the Betaflight OSD. So you save a UART, but you're a little bit more limited in how you can manipulate it. It's your call whether that trade-off is worth it for you. Jeff Stewart, thanks for $5. No question, just a donation. Thank you, Jeff. Jacob Lewis, $10, asks, while in acro mode, the quad will slowly pitch forward until it does a nosedive unless I pull back the stick. Horizon and angle mode are fine and level. Jacob, I'm going to guess that you used your trims on your transmitter, your trim switches. You used your trim switches to trim the quad in angle mode, and as a result, when you switch to acro mode, the channels are not centered. Never use your trim switches to trim the quad in angle mode. What you need to do is calibrate the accelerometer and trim the accelerometer in Betaflight. Hang on. I have a video showing exactly how to do this. Here we go. Jacob Lewis. Here's a link to your video. That will tell you how to trim the accelerometer in Betaflight. So center your channels. Go in to your receiver tab. Go into your receiver tab. Your channels should be centered when your sticks are centered. 1500. If they're not, that's why your quad is pitching forward. Then use Betaflight accelerometer trim to cause the quad to trim flat and level. Okay? Bob Much, thanks for 50. Bob, thank you so much, Bob. You're very generous. Thank you very much, Bob. Bob is one of my most active people that I talk to on a daily basis. We have a lot of conversations. Thank you very much. That's a massive donation. CJ Houdinique, thank you for $5. Can you explain what sanity checks are? CJ, the sanity checks are used when you're using GPS rescue mode. GPS rescue mode is a very, very rudimentary return to home. So when Betaflight failsafes, it'll like try to fly back to its GPS home location. But the problem is that it's very rudimentary. It ascends to a given altitude. It flies home until it kind of gets close. Then it starts descending. And the problem is that at any point in there, it could be crashed into a tree or something. And sanity checks just let the quadcopter say, hey, am I still flying or did I crash? And if it thinks it crashed, it shuts down. That's basically what sanity checks are. Nick Hessen. For $5, I'll tell you, Nick, it's a boy. It's a boy. Boy or girl. It's a boy. Daniel Hafner, thank you for $5. Is it beneficial to put a low ESR cap on the plus VBAT wire from the camera? Daniel Hafner, the VBAT wire from most cameras is used to control, if you're using the in-camera OSD, the VBAT plus wire in the camera lets the camera's OSD know what battery voltage is. So most people are not using the VBAT plus wire because most people are not using the camera's OSD. They're using Betaflight OSD. But if you are using the camera OSD and you're powering the camera from VBAT, then the camera already knows what battery voltage is. Regardless, I do not think it's beneficial to put a low ESR cap on the VBAT wire. I'm not sure why you would need to do that. I guess maybe it would slow down. It would act as a low pass and kind of slow down some of the peaks and spikes, but the camera probably already has low pass filtering built in. Bryce Thrower gives $2 an S. What do you use to hang your quadcopters on a wall? Bryce, as with everything, I have a video about that. Bryce, here you go, buddy. I am pasting that in the chat for you. Back to the chat. Back to the chat. Okay, let's catch up with some questions in the chat. I'm now caught up on the chats. Thank you, Nevin Labey, for 50. Wow, $50. Thank you. I should have babies more often. You guys are so generous when I've just had a baby. I'm sure I'll come out ahead on this whole transaction. back in the regular chat, looking for questions. What do we got? Hang on. I do not need to have EA Origin running in the background while I stream. RAF asks, Joshua, if I remember correctly, all the VTX that you tried was below the advertised values, except the Holy Bro Adeladdle with the default pigtail was close. What do you think? Ref, I would have to go back and check that spreadsheet. In fact, hey, I could probably do that right now, couldn't I? The spreadsheet, here's the spreadsheet. And you guys should be careful because some of these numbers have been found to be inaccurate. So please remember that, and that's why I'm not publishing all of this. But some of them are high, some of them are low. They're kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. They're kind of all over the place. Many of them are low. In general, I would say most of them come in below what they're rated for. They're most likely to be about right at 25 or 200 milliwatts. At the higher output powers, they often are off. Although some people have pointed out that you really ought to be showing these results in dB, because a difference of, say, 1 dB, that's actually not bad for if you were 1 dB off on a $30 video transmitter, that'd be pretty incredible, to be honest. So, but by representing in milliwatts, it looks like a bigger difference than it is. 1 dB down from 1,000, from 1 watt is like 800 and change. So you hear, oh my gosh, I have a 1 watt video transmitter and it's only putting out 850 milliwatts. It's actually not that bad. The reason I don't put the results in dB is because nobody except RF people understand dB. So you hear, oh, it's 29 dB. Oh, it's you just have no idea. People are like, just tell me the milliwatts. So I finally started doing that. Now kind of biting me the other way. Let's see here. Indro, no problems. When the donations come from YouTube, you can. It doesn't matter. YouTube does the conversion. You can send me all the kroner you want. Thank you, Matt Raymond, for $1. Clay McCamey, the wife wears bifocal glasses. I'm going to buy a set of diopter lenses for her Fatshark. Should I buy the diopter to match her prescription or the bifocal prescription? Clay, my understanding is that Fatshark goggles, the effective focal distance is about 6 feet. I think that's correct. The first thing I would do, Clay, is I would just ask the company that is making the lenses for you. So if you're buying them from RHO Lens or Optic Fisher or whoever you're buying them from, just email customer support and say, look, tell them exactly what you just told me, because they do this all day long. And this is not the first time they've heard that. This is not the first time I've heard that question. So it's definitely not the first time they've heard that question. Go ahead and just ask them what they recommend. I think since the focal distance is 6 feet, it would probably be the distance prescription. But again, it depends on exactly your prescription. Let's see. M-Ball FPV. If you're a patron, you should definitely be in the Discord, M-Ball FPV, just to keep me from missing you. But what should we be looking for when reviewing Blackbox, gyro, and PID graph? M-Ball FPV, that is a totally open-ended question. That's like that. In fact, I have a video series. I have a video series, M-Ball FPV, Blackbox 101 by Joshua Bardwell. And it's a whole playlist with like 15 parts getting you started with Blackbox and analyzing Blackbox, okay? So you can definitely, I will give you a link to the first video in that playlist, M-Ball FPV. The other thing I would recommend is that you go, did I close the window? I did. Hold on. The other thing I would recommend is that you go to, UAV Tech's channel on YouTube. He is one of the guys making the most content about Blackbox tuning and Blackbox use. And he probably even has a playlist about Blackbox. Let's see. He's got some Blackbox log reviews here. Apparently not. There's no Blackbox how-to. But his stuff just has a lot of Blackbox content that you should definitely check out his channel. But definitely first check out that playlist I gave you, Blackbox 101. Day Ragens, my FC shuts down right after arming. Can you help? Day Ragens, you need to go back earlier we talked about runaway. Day Ragens, that is what you want to be looking into if it disarms. If it disarms right after arming. That's what you want to be looking at. No cam connection pad on the flight controller, asks IV. Any way to remap and use a UART to control my camera? IV, what I recommend you do is you get the RunCam camera control adapter. Because you've told me you have a spare UART, right? Here's my video about the RunCam camera control adapter. I'm going to paste that in the chat for you. And what that's going to let you do is use that UART to control the camera much more consistently and reliably than using the CAM-C function. The CAM-C function is sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes it doesn't work at all. So, yeah, I would suggest doing that. Hydromaker, I just got a Phantom 4 Pro. What's your opinion? I think the Phantom 4 Pro is a fantastic camera drone. It's not an acro drone, but as camera drones go, it's amazing. Nobody does what DJI does better than DJI. That's just a fact. You can't build a camera drone better than DJI can for cheaper. Just buy a Phantom, buy a Mavic Air. Don't waste your time. Okay. So Chamber asks over in the Discord, is there any punishment to turning runaway off? Yeah. So Chamber, the reason I don't turn runaway off entirely is that if you put a prop on wrong, if you've got a motor spinning the wrong direction, if you mess up the board alignment, then when you go to fly, it'll flip out. Whereas now with runaway protection on, it goes and stops. So I definitely want it for those rare times that I screw up the board alignment, but I just have it set to 5%, so it turns off almost as soon. Basically what it does, Chamber, is as soon as I raise the throttle to fly, it's off. But before I raise the throttle, you'll see me do this sometimes in my videos, or if you fly with me, but I arm, and then I take the pitch and roll stick and just go and just lean the quad a little bit. And see if it acts like it's about to fly away, then whoops, I disarm. Yeah. Let's see. Ronnie Ringkung wants to know about filtering in Betaflight. Lower number of the filter is more filtering. These are low pass filters. So the lower the filter, the less passes through and the more is filtered. Lowering the number of filters more gives cooler motors with worse prop wash performance. Higher numbers gives less filtering, means hotter motors with better prop wash performance. IV says, so why did you decide to the Nirvana and go with the jumper? Hang on. I never said the Nirvana was my full-time radio. I haven't said the jumper. T16 is my full-time radio. I'm excited about both of them. The Nirvana, the Nirvana has amazing build quality. The form factor is kind of weird, and I'm not 100% sure I love the touchscreen. As sexy as a touchscreen is, I'm not 100% sure I wouldn't rather just have a jog wheel. The T16 is a little bit cheaper build quality, although I think still a great value for the price. And the capabilities in the screen and the ergonomics I like a lot. But so far, I still am using the Tyrannus as my main one. I'm still just kind of playing the field. Who is... Wow. I want my money for the BS Vendetta you sold me, dick, says OCD FPV Von Bollier. I have no idea who you're talking to. I didn't sell you a Vendetta. I've never sold anyone a Vendetta. I've never even talked about the Vendetta. I'm going to hide your message, but I'm going to laugh at you in public at the same time. Who are you talking to, bro? How can I access the Discord live chat? Snowbird FPV. If you are in the Discord, you need to go to the hashtag patrons-welcome. It's under public channel. Look right here. Snowbird, go here. And there's instructions right here for how to link up your Patreon account and your Discord account. That's how to do it. Alrighty. Let's see here. Livestream chat. Any luck with high KV 6S running Betaflight 4.0 yet? Ask Decode. I haven't gotten back to that yet, Decode. Sorry about that. Techno Babbler wants to know any recommendations in general when building a field charging battery pack using 18650s. Make sure you don't have bad cells. Make sure you have a way to balance charge it, I guess, are my recommendations. Swamp Dog asks, loaded Betaflight 4.0, now the quad gets some evil oscillations when I punch out. Watch your master PID tuning vid. Should I start by lowering P or raising D? Swamp Dog, the first thing I would do is watch my video. Betaflight 4.0 is trying to kill you. Yes, that's the name of the video, Swamp Dog. Betaflight 4.0 is trying to kill you. And there's a suggestion. The Betaflight 4.0 defaults are just a little too aggressive for some builds. Swamp Dog, I'm pasting this in the Discord for you. And there's a suggestion there for how to kind of tame it a little bit. Let's check the super chats here. Make sure I'm not missing any. Nitro gives $2 and asks, the best high definition FPV cam, turtle or split? What I've said in the past is that I have flown the split on several different micro ready to flies and have had good results with it. I mean, I'm sorry, the turtle. I got that backwards. I've flown the turtle on several different ready to flies and had okay results with it. I know there are people out there who have complaints about the turtle and have had a bad experience with it, but for me at least, I've had an okay experience with it. So that's the one I recommend. The split I used was one of the very first ones. It had some problems. It probably has been fixed, but since I haven't personally used it, when I'm asked for a recommendation, I go for the turtle. Dennis Drabinsky, thank you for €5. You didn't use capacitors on your perfect quad. Do you find them unnecessary on this build for how you fly it? Dennis, I often do not add capacitors to my builds unless I have problems with noise, and I often don't have problems with noise. Maybe I'm not as picky about absolutely. I've seen some people say, oh my God, I have this terrible video noise. And I look at it and I go, it looks pretty good to me. So maybe it's just that I'm not as picky, but I often don't add capacitors. I just try and build a quad that's relatively clean. So unless I have a lot of video noise, I typically don't bother. It's just one more thing to put on there. PJ Mullen, $2 says, I have a bunch of old CC3D flight controllers. Just toss them. PJ, here's the thing. Betaflight hasn't supported F1 flight controllers since when was it? 3.0, 3.2? It's been a while. I think it was around 3.0 or 3.2. So you can't even flash Betaflight to an F1. And the CC3D specifically had a whole bunch of weird problems where you have to flash via one plug but not the USB unless you get rid of the OpenPilot bootloader. I don't even remember all the nonsense. Yes, I'm sorry, PJ. Just get rid of them. They're just not useful today anymore. I mean, they'll still fly, but yeah. IV. Oh, guys, come on, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. The Vendetta. This is not the place. My chat's not the place. Just quit it. I'm gonna put you in timeout. Thank you. OCD FPV Vaughn Bolior. Am I going all jumper now? I am. Here's. I'll tell you what. The jumper. There are a couple things I want jumper to do before I feel like, whoa, oh, you really nailed this one. Like for $160, the Jumper T16, it's going to be the perfect radio for a lot of people. Not everybody, but a lot of people are going to be like, no, this is it. This is going to scratch their itch, right? For people who want the best gimbals, well, you're probably going to, you could buy a Futaba for $800, but for people who really care about gimbals, you're probably going to be looking at the M9 gimbals in the Taranis X9D, maybe the QX7S, maybe the X10S. There's a lot of radio, maybe the Nirvana. The gimbals in the Nirvana they're kind of loose, but they're actually really good gimbals, very good digital gimbals. For people who really care about that, they're not going to get the Jumper T16, but the Jumper T16 is acceptable in every way and excellent in a few really nice ways. And I really think it hits especially price-wise for $160, I think what you get is really good. But I would love to see it with a built-in multi-protocol module so I could keep Crossfire in the back without having to take the module out every time I want to run a FrSky radio. And I would love to see it with better gimbals. The gimbals on it are coming from the Taranis gimbals. They're okay, but they're not fantastic. So I'm hoping that if I'm playing it a little bit cool because I'm hoping that if I just be like, yeah, the T16 is okay. I'm sure it would be nice if it had these improvements. I'm hoping if I just hold out long enough, Jumper will go, okay, Joshua, we'll do it. And then when they finally give me everything I want, I'll be like, this is it. I don't know. We'll see. But for now, keep playing it cool about the T16. Somebody asked about the budget build. When will the budget build be back in stock? I have a comment about that. Hang on one second. Let me get the page back up again. This is the Bardwell budget build, and it's been out of stock for basically 3 months. I don't know. It's been out of stock for a long freaking time. And what happened was before the race day quads switch, when Rotor Riot brought their warehouse over to race day quads, the problem was blamed on the fact that the warehouse that was running it had trouble with stocking. But now Race Day Quads has had it for several months and it still hasn't come back into stock. So here's what I did literally just this morning. Literally this morning. Hang on. What I did was I went to the video description of my budget build and, oh, I guess I didn't need to edit the video. Oh, well, whatever. I added a link to all of the parts. So in the description of the budget build videos, there's a link to where you can buy all the parts by yourself. And it's unfortunate. One of the goals of the budget build was that you would just be able, you wouldn't have to hunt down 17 different parts, you know, that it would just come with everything you needed. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like it's going to get delivered on. Like, at the end of the day, the warehouse has to get all the parts. They have to be in stock at the same time. And all the little odds and ends, like the XT60, have to be broken out into packs. It's just not happening, and I finally gave up. And I said, okay. So there's links there. If you want to do the budget build, you can, but you have to maybe buy the parts from 2 or 3 different stores. So be it. Let's see here. Where are we at? DRock75, thanks for $10, says, I just want to thank you for all the help you give everyone. Seriously, thank you. Thank you, DRock. It means a lot. I did. I made a parts list for it. Yes, I'm looking at the Discord now. I made a parts list for it. I did. And the thing is, for a long time, I mean, I did that project in partnership with Rotor Riot. I actually did that project when I was actually on the payroll with Rotor Riot, and it was one of the ways that I wanted to help justify my paycheck, which I didn't. But so I said, look, Rotor Riot, you guys put this together into a kit so people don't have to shop around, and you guys get all the standoffs, the tape, the zip ties, the XT60, so that basically you get everything you need in a box to build this quadcopter. And in exchange for that, you know, Rotor Riot will have exclusivity to the links. And after a while, it's just been out of stock for so long that I was just like, okay, well, that's just clearly not working out. No hard feelings. So now there's a parts list right there. So if you've been wondering about the budget build, now you can build it. Derek Side Pryor asks, my throttle sticks for about a half a second after increasing D. Is this a sign of a possible flyaway? Yes, absolutely. Derek Side, if you raised D gain and then when you raise throttle, it doesn't come right back down again, you're at risk of a flyaway. You need to adjust your filters, lower the cutoff on your filters, lower your D gains back down. Do something, because you are definitely at risk of a flyaway. Kay Krause says, parallel charging tip, plug in all the batteries and wait a few minutes. They will even each other out. Kay Krause, that is true, but if the voltage difference between them at the moment you plug in is excessive, then you will burn something. So you definitely need to be within 0.1 volts per cell. So for a 4-cell battery, that's 0.4 volts. Any more than that, and you'll have excess current flow that can damage things. Derek Koblenz asks, JB, what are your thoughts about Neuroflight? I think that Drone Mesh did some videos about Neuroflight a little while back, and everybody got super excited about Neuroflight and asked me so many questions about it. And it's always nice to know that people are excited about something. So, but here's my actual thought about Neuroflight. So in case you're wondering, here's a link to Drone Mesh's video about Neuroflight. I'll paste that in the chat too. There we go. Here's the thing about Neuroflight, though. Neuroflight is billed as a machine learning or artificial intelligence PID controller. Well, it's not even really a PID controller per se. It's an AI has basically learned how to try to translate your stick inputs into motor outputs. Here's why, and it was originally I actually have been meaning to do an interview with the guy who, this was his PhD project basically. And I've reached out to him. We just haven't been able to get a time together because I want to interview him to hear. Because Drone Mesh is talking about Neuroflight, and a lot of people are getting excited about his videos. But it seems like there's a real big disconnect between what the actual guy who created the project intended and what people are taking from Drone Mesh's videos. I'm not suggesting... I'm not trying to pick on Drone Mesh. He's just making videos. But a lot of times you say something in a video and what people hear has more to do with their expectations than what you actually said. And I think that's happening. So here's the problem with machine learning. You guys go check out a YouTube channel called Code Bullet. Code Bullet. He is a coder, and one of the things he does on his channels is he writes AIs to play games. Like, he'll write an AI to play Flappy Bird, and the AI will learn to play Flappy Bird, okay? Here's the thing I take from that. When he writes an AI, he'll do 30, 40 generations of learning before the AI starts to get good at something simple like Flappy Bird. And each generation will have 700 individual like elements in it, and the best one will pass on its genes to the next one. The way that machine learning works is that you have a giant data set, and you take what's good from the data set, you let the machine learn from it, you let the machine iterate a lot, and then eventually the machine starts to get good at what you're asking it to do. But without a massive data set and without a lot of iteration, there's no way to do machine learning. So here's the problem with quadcopters. The way that Neuroflight works is you start with a simulated quadcopter and you give the quadcopter inputs and the machine tries to learn how to make the quadcopter fly. But that's not a real quadcopter. So the AI can only be as good as the simulation because the AI is learning from the simulation. Well, why don't we teach the AI on real quadcopters? Well, the problem with that is it's not enough to just feed 10,000 Blackbox logs into a machine learning machine. Well, first of all, where are you going to get 10,000 Blackbox logs? Okay, start there. But even if you had 10,000 Blackbox logs, it's not enough to just feed those into some machine and like have it learn from it, because the key thing about machine learning is that the machine needs to be able to tell when it's successful versus when it's not. So if you give the AI a Blackbox log and it looks at it and goes, I think I need to do this. Well, now you have to go back out and iterate. You have to let the AI try it and see if it was right. And so here's the problem with Neuroflight in summary, in my opinion. Because you can't iterate in real life on the scale that you need to iterate for machine learning to get good at everything. You would need to do millions of flights before the AI got good at flying a quadcopter. There isn't time in the world to do that. So then how do you teach it? You teach it in a simulator, but then it's only as good as the simulator is good. And in fact, right now, the guy who wrote Neuroflight is actually working on a better simulator to teach the AI better. In other words, Neuroflight is a curiosity. It's an interesting PhD project, but this idea that people have that Neuroflight is going to make quads fly better, I think is very, very far-fetched. And if you don't believe me, let me just briefly share with you this video from Code Bullet in which he tried to teach an AI how to walk using this game in which there's this little physics-based object and it has to learn to walk, and there's a laser beam that chases it and tries to kill it. And so it starts out with, let me find the right spot in the video here. Yeah, we're going to start out with this little guy. And he's going to try to learn to walk. And hang on. Here it goes. Yep, it's trying to figure out. That computer's trying to figure out how to walk. Oh, yeah. Yeah, almost there. Hang on. And then at the end, oh, it's kind of, I don't know. It is moving away from the laser beam. Yep, this is generation 72, by the way. Here are these guys trying to escape the laser beam. And finally, by the end, oh, look, it learned to walk. It's not really walking, is it, guys? It's kind of shuffling. And that's the best it could do after 80 generations. My point is that even when this idea that AI is going to find some novel solution that we never thought of, maybe it's going to just barely be able to shamble away from the laser beam. I don't think PID controllers are going anywhere. Okay. That's my... Every 2 months, someone has to ask me about Neuroflight, and I have to go through that rant. So now I have. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay. Okay. Wow. Really, I've a lot have gone by in that time. Can you burn a motor if your quad gets stuck in a tree and one motor gets jammed and cannot spin? Trip Flip asked that, and the answer is yes. Yes, 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 yes. You can burn a motor. So be careful. If your quad's stuck in a tree and you're trying to turtle mode it down, be careful because you could smoke a motor, and maybe that's not the best way to get it down. Okay. Sync FPV gives £5 and asks, hey JB, as everyone's talking radios, would you rather get a Futaba T16SZ or a Spectrum IX12 if you had to choose? Sync FPV, I have not owned a Futaba or a Spectrum IX12, but I have known multiple people who own those radios. So I think Drew still flies with his IX12. Stingy had an IX12 very briefly. He was offered an IX12. Who else had an IX12? One of the other Rotorite guys had an IX12. Vanover. Vanover was sponsored by Spectrum and had an IX12. Almost everybody I know who has had an IX12 has ended up moving on. Drew is the only one who still flies one. The Android handset is incredibly clever, but also slow and clunky and annoying. Vanover switched to Futaba. The T16SZ is a beautiful radio. It is just the best built, nicest. It's just gorgeous. It doesn't have the amazing programmability of OpenTX, so you can't like do literally anything with it. But neither does the Spectrum IX12. So between them, I would take the Futaba. The Futaba is, I mean, we're talking about a $600 radio versus an $800 radio. So let's just be real here. I wouldn't take either of them. Even if you were to give me one, the fact that it doesn't run OpenTX would still give me pause. If you give me a Futaba T16SZ that runs OpenTX, then I'm going to have a serious crisis. But I would take the Futaba. I think the Spectrum IX12 is a good radio, except that the Android handset, which is the whole interface to the radio, is really clunky. Whereas the Futaba is a great radio with a decent interface. So there we go. How are we doing over in the Discord? We don't fly enough for it to learn. Yeah, Chamber, that's the thing about Neuroflight is you have to fly and show it what the results of its choices are, and then let it try again. And that just takes massive iteration that can only happen in a simulator when you can just run 500 generations overnight. Elevated Customs in the Discord wants to know, as far as Crossfire goes, what does the RSNR stand for in the telemetry screen? It reads in dB. It's signal-to-noise ratio, Elevated Customs. There's a receive signal-to-noise ratio and a transmit signal-to-noise ratio, I believe. So if you see RSNR and TSNR, that's the receiver signal-to-noise ratio, in other words, at the aircraft, and TSNR, that's the signal-to-noise ratio at the transmitter. Ray Kletter, does anybody ever wish you could just wake up one morning with all the knowledge that Joshua Bardwell has? You should hear how often I'm wrong, Ray. Why would tightening my standoffs make my quad twitch and my motors instantly get hot? Colton Grundy, I'm going to guess that you have soft mounting, and when you tighten the standoffs, it pinches down on the soft mounts and therefore transmits more vibration to the flight controller, which then causes twitching and hot motors. Bottom line is this, Colton Grundy. The guy goes into the doctor and says, Doctor, whenever I hold my arm like this, my arm hurts. The doctor says, don't hold your arm like that. Okay. If you do something and it makes your quad twitch and your motors get hot, don't do that. That's the bottom. That's not rocket science. Any input on the FrSky X Pro, asks Sean Henson. I have one on the way. We'll see. Access protocol is very exciting. I have talked about the Access protocol a bit in previous live streams. It's a new air protocol from FrSky that has a lot of amazing, interesting features. I'm looking forward to getting to try that out. Let's see here. That's not David Tatum. That's not really a dad joke. That's actually an old Jewish joke, I think. That's where I've always heard it. You know. What's the biggest milliamp hour battery you would use? I have a 2200 milliamp hour Turnigy. It works good, but is it too much? RazCloud, the issue there is the weight of the quad. As the battery gets bigger, the quad gets heavier and flies worse. The answer depends, of course, on the size of the craft. If you have an 8-inch prop cruiser, it may fly with a 3000 milliamp hour battery and it just may suit it. For a mini quad, like a 5-inch mini quad, 1800 milliamp hour in the 250 gram range, that's about the max I would consider. Let's see. Will you need new receivers for access? Asks K6LSN. K6LSN, FrSky is saying that the existing receivers will be firmware upgradable to the new access protocol. However, they will not be downgradable back to the old protocol, is what I'm hearing. It's still very preliminary, so take that with a grain of salt. They're saying it'll be firmware upgradable. The thing is, the new protocol will be locked. This is what I think is there. This seems like what their plan is. The problem is that you've got companies like Jumper who have made a multi-protocol module that supports the FrSky D16 protocol, and FrSky doesn't like that. They want to lock them out. So the Access protocol has a lot of amazing new features. Kudos to FrSky for that, because sometimes companies will just lock the protocol down and not give you anything in exchange. So when you go to the new protocol and update your receivers, if you have something like the Jumper with the multi-protocol module, I'm looking around for it, it's not in arm's reach, it won't work with the new Access protocol. Anything that requires D16, like any third-party module, will not work with the FrSky Access protocol unless somehow they reverse engineer it. So you can upgrade your existing receivers, but they'll stop working with any third-party transmitter or module. Rod Clark, is it always necessary to flash firmware to new ESCs? Nah, Rod, I usually update my ESCs to the latest version, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Free asks, thoughts on 2-blade, 3-blade, or 4-blade props? 2-blade props, Free, are too slidey. They do not corner sharply enough. 3-blade, but they are good for top speed usually, and because they can achieve a high RPM because they have less drag, and they're very durable. It's much harder to imbalance a 2-blade prop. 3-blade props, in my opinion, are the best all around, and that's what you'll see almost all freestyle and racing pilots flying. 3-blade props are a good balance of top end speed, thrust, cornering sharpness, and durability. 4-blade props have less top end usually. They corner amazing, but they don't have as much sort of pickup and top end. And they're much easier to imbalance. There have been some interesting 4-blade props from HQ lately. HQ makes a 4.8 by, I think it's like a 3-point-something pitch. But it's a 4-blade prop, but it's only 4.8 inches in diameter. So by making the prop just a little bit smaller, you get rid of some of the extra drag, and you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's a very interesting prop. I actually have a review of it up on my channel. In general, though, I don't like 4-blade props for the kind of flying I do. Hi, Tyler Popplewell. Is there a lot of places to fly in Knoxville, Tennessee? Tyler, please join the Knoxville FPV Racing Facebook group. Look it up on Facebook, Knoxville FPV Racing. There's a very vibrant and active FPV community in Knoxville. Very lucky. In fact, Evan Turner, one of the fastest pilots in the world, just happens to live near here. But there's a great community. In fact, there was a race just this weekend. There's a local guy named Joshua Moon. He has taken up the mantle of organizing and running races. He had a race at his house. We had a barbecue. Evan Turner came out and made us all look really slow. It's one of the downsides of having Evan in the local community is whenever we have a race, he shows up and he's like the coolest. He's humble. He's not like you wouldn't. He's super helpful, but at the same time, he shows up and then he's like, here's what he did at this race. He gave himself a 60% throttle cut, and he still beat us all. He wasn't showing off. He was just like, this sounds like I'm going to give myself a throttle cut and see what happens. So that's the downside of having Evan here. But yeah, definitely check that out. Snowbird FPV, thanks for $5. Congrats on the baby. Micro Eagle JB edition is out of stock, so I purchased the Micro Eagle. Any changes I can make to have similar settings? Snowbird, you can put the exact settings on it. I'm pretty sure I put it in the video. Also, why is the JB Micro Eagle out of stock? Why is it out of stock? Anyway. Did I put it in the video description? I didn't. I know it's out there. Snowbird FPV, I know you're on the Discord. Ask me in the Discord what the settings are. I'll tell you. They're not a secret. I've mentioned them many times. Yeah, you can totally turn a regular Micro Eagle into a JB Micro Eagle. Elevated Customs RQLY in Crossfire is link quality. Why does it read between 19 and 30%? I don't know the answer to that. It should be. I'm not sure that mine does. Something isn't right there. Elevated Customs. Something isn't right there. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. Ronnie Johnny, when I go to flash my flight controller, I get no response from bootloader. Ronnie Johnny, here is my suggestion. Watch this, guys. Watch this. I do this so often. Watch here. I'm typing here. Watch this. I have a macro. I type this so much. Boom. There's the macro. Ronnie Johnny, there's the fix for you for how to fix the no response from bootloader. Probably that'll fix it. Let's see here. Just ordered Rapid Fire, asks Shea Music. Any antenna recommendations? Shea Music, the antenna that I often find myself using is the Strix Hoot. I think it's a really durable antenna for on the quad, reasonably good RF performance. I often have them on my goggles just because I have like 10 of them that I use for module testing. Strix Hoot antenna, it's sold only by Ready Made RC and it's sometimes out of stock. The other one that I like is the Luminaire Axie. Very, very good RF performance, good durability if you put the stubby version of the Axie on your quad. The Luminaire Axie is a good one. The final one I would say, if you are looking for a more budget option, on the goggles, a Pagoda is a fantastic choice for the goggles. Pagoda are they're very fragile antennas, so if you're going to put them on the quad, they have to have a really good case. But on the goggles, a Pagoda is a fantastic choice. So those are some options. PropSoft likes the triple patch. The triple patch is a good, interesting directional PropSoft, but for the rapid fire, I prefer to run 2 Omnis for most situations. Roger M says, my Tyrannus won't start. I have to start the bootloader, then exit the bootloader for it to fire up. Roger M, I don't know exactly why that's happening, but here's what I would do. Unplug the battery, open the radio, take out the coin cell, the little coin cell inside, wait for a few seconds, put the coin cell back in, put the battery back in, take out the SD card, and try and start it. Sometimes a bad SD card will cause the Tyrannus to not boot, and the SD card in the Tyrannus often, the factory SD card is pretty bad. So Yancey Smith wants to know, do you see 2.4 gig FPV video for long range making a comeback now that Crossfire is so popular? Yancey, I'm not super up with long range stuff. I could imagine a 900 megahertz Crossfire pilot using 2.4 gig or 1.3 gig. I'm not really sure what they're doing, though, to be honest with you. 2.4 gig has a lot of potential. There's a lot of bandwidth there, and the antennas are not too big. So let's see. It's FPV in the Discord wants to know, any way for Tyrannus model to be changed by a macro based on cell count coming back from telemetry? No, it's FPV. The only way for the model to change is for you to manually change the model. What you could do, it's FPV, is you could, this is a really advanced project, you could have 2 different sets of mixes and have the mixes activate depending on the telemetry value. That'd be pretty challenging, but it could be done. Maybe that would accomplish what you're going for. Chamer wants to know, I have a racer and I want to remove the OSD from the screen, but I don't want to wire it up to a UART. Is there any way I can do it? No, Chamer, if you have one of the cameras with the UART based control, you cannot use a joystick. Some of the cameras have the ability to switch back and forth. So if you have the RunCam Racer 2, I think that's where they started doing it. You can switch the camera between digital and analog control. Let's see if I can. Aha! Yes. Here's a video I made about it. So this video shows you if you have the RunCam Racer with the dual modes. This video shows you how to switch from analog to digital and back, and that will let you use a regular joystick. No, wrong video, sorry. Hold on. That will let you use a regular joystick to turn the OSD off, then you can put it back the way it was. Okay. All Day Air says, my Tyrannus stock SD card died. Yeah, the SD card that comes in the Tyrannus X9D is really, really trash. It dies randomly. So, yeah, 661 FPV points out, if you are going to fly a 2.4 gig video link, would it just fail-safe all the 2.4 gig radio links? It depends. The 2.4 gig radio links are frequency hopping, and the video link is analog. So there's some possibility that the frequency hopping control links would be okay. But at the same time, a really strong analog transmitter will cause some interference and potentially fail-safe. So I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't count on... I wouldn't personally want to fly with somebody with 2.4 gig video in the air. Not on 2.4 gig. I'd be worried. Joseph Murphy asks, does that camera control trick work with the Micro Swift 3? I think it does, Joseph. Let's check. Mike, what we got to check, Joe, is whether the interface... Yeah, so Joe, do you see, or Joseph, sorry. I hate when people shorten my name to Josh. I don't hate it, but I prefer Joshua, so I'll call you Joseph. Joseph, what you see here is that the camera control pins are labeled ground/TX, M/RX. And what that means is that it can switch between analog and digital control. And that means that video I posted is going to apply. Here, let me post that video everywhere. Here we go. Joseph, I will paste that in the chat for you. Joseph Murphy, there you go. Yeah, so the RunCam MicroSwift 3 V2 does have dual mode control. Clapped wants to know, having trouble with KISS controller on Betaflight 4.0. Can we flash with DFU mode on, but without DFU it doesn't work? Well, you got to be able to flash with... You can't flash without DFU mode. You have to be in DFU mode to flash, but I think you're saying, Clap, that it doesn't connect when you don't use DFU mode, and that might mean you're flashing the wrong target? I don't know about that. That's a tough one. Outcast FPV, what can I do to stop my quad from yawing to the right when I give it throttle? Outcast FPV, I think what's happening is that as you raise the throttle, the quad kind of goes like this and kind of holds. Now, the first thing you got to do is you got to, if you have Blackbox, or if you have the Betaflight stick, OSD stick overlay, although it's not that great. A lot of times when people complain about this, what's actually happening is that you are inadvertently moving the yaw stick and you don't realize you're doing it. Maybe you could have a friend look, but it might not be easy to see. Blackbox is the best way to do it. So just verify that you're not accidentally pushing the stick. What you can do is you can just pinch the lightest pinch on the stick and raise, just hover and raise that throttle and just be super careful not to accidentally move the yaw axis. At that point, if it's still happening, Outcast FPV, what it might be is if one of your motors is just a little bit slow because it's a little bit beat up, then that can cause that to happen. You would also tend to notice an arm dipping. If it's just the yaw axis, you might also need to add some anti-gravity gain. In the Betaflight PID control tab, there's an anti-gravity parameter, and you might try raising the anti-gravity gain. Roger M says TBS Smart Audio doesn't work with Betaflight 4.0. This is a known problem. Yes, it is a known problem. I thought the fix was supposed to be in 4.0, but I don't know. It seems like maybe it's not. It is a known problem. TripFlip wants to know, is it possible to get LCD burn-in from OSD and goggles? I know the sun is bad for them. TripFlip, the sun's bad for your FPV goggles because it literally burns them. It shines through the lens and it burns them. LCD burn-in is not an issue. We've had LCD goggles for a long time. It hasn't been an issue. Some people have suggested that the OLED screen in the HDOs might be subject to burn-in. It is a fact that OLEDs are more susceptible to burn-in than LCDs, but Fatshark seems to think it's not an issue. Only time will tell. Let's see here. How are we doing? Thank you, Anthony Short, for $10 in the super chat. Thanks for the fantastic content. Thank you, Anthony. Whew. All right. Am I caught up? Am I done? Yeah, TripFlip. The thing with OLED screens and burn-in is the OLED screen will be rated for like a certain number of hours or whatever. The OLED screen will eventually burn in, but the question is whether Fatshark correctly spec'd the screen and bought a screen with sufficiently long burn-in time that it'll last the life of the goggles. Only time will tell, of course. Kenneth Daly, don't worry about it. Lots of people shorten my name. It's not a big deal. If you ask, I'll say Joshua, but if you call me Josh, I won't be offended. I do notice if you say, "Oh, what's your name?" and I say, "Hey, I'm Joshua," and you go, "Okay, Josh," I'll notice. I'll be like, "Oh, I see how it is." Well, I'm going to get on with my life. But whenever somebody tells me their name, I try and if they like say your name is Michael, I probably won't call you Mike. So I won't call you Ken, for example, unless you introduce yourself as Ken. So don't stress about it. There was a guy. Let me tell you a story. I'll tell a story on myself. We had a community meetup because Kenneth, you're a little embarrassed about calling me Josh. I'll tell you a story that I was embarrassed about. So we had a community meetup. People came in. We had coffee. We had bagels. We went and flew. We were all just hanging out at the Rotor Riot warehouse. And as you may have heard, I got a Mustang. I drove the Mustang down to Orlando. I had the Mustang there. The guy pulls out his phone and he says, "Here, take a look at this." And on the phone is like I don't know the year, like a 1984 Mustang. And I go, "Oh, yeah. That's like my least favorite body style of Mustangs." That's just the first thought I had that came out of my head. Well, this is his Mustang. And he's like showing it to me. And he's like, "Hey, look, we both have a Mustang." And I'm like, I don't like your car. And the minute I said it, I was like, oh my God. This guy's like showing me his car, and I just like the first thing I said was to insult his car. And then we had a lovely conversation, and then like the whole rest of the day I was like, I can't believe I said that. And it's true. That is my least favorite body style of Mustangs, but it's still a perfectly lovely car. And if it's like this guy's car, then I would love to connect over it. And I'm just such a foot and mouth jerk. So do not I was like, I just thought he wanted my opinion. I thought he was like, "So what do you think of this one?" It didn't occur to me that he was showing me his baby. I always felt like such a jerk. So if I introduced myself as Joshua and you called me Josh, trust me, that was not the most offensive thing that happened that weekend. So, yep. If that was you, I apologize for insulting your car. I wish I hadn't said that. In my defense, all cars in the 80s looked like shit. Am I right? Am I wrong about that? Like, show me one. Okay, a DeLorean. Okay, but like any normal production car in the 80s, they all just looked terrible, didn't they? Is it just me? So, okay. Yeah, and also C2C points out the 84 Mustang was one of the last ones with the 4-cylinder turbo. So, anyway. XL R8N, I currently fly with HD3s right now. The HD2s, I think the optics in the HD2s were starting to get a little blurry. Maybe it was just my optics. I switched to the HD3s because I wanted just a little bit sharper screen. I haven't switched to the HDOs because I use the HDOs for module testing, and I need two identical HDOs for module test. I need two identical goggles. So when I bought a second set of HDOs to do module testing, I was like, well, I guess I can't use the first set as my primary goggles. So, am I done with the Beast class? OCDFPV asks. I still have to get back to the Beast class and figure out why it crashed out of the air. I have not had a chance since I got back from Orlando to get back at working on it. I've just had so many other things, including having a baby. So I haven't done that yet. What's faster than DShot 1200, asks Wiccan FPV. I have the new Kakute F7 with metal ESC. Is there something faster than DShot 1200? Is this okay with 4.0? Well, Wiccan FPV, there is a DShot 2400. It's only supported by KISS as far as I know. The thing is, though, as you get to those faster protocols, you get more noise and more corruption. So I actually run DShot 600 on almost all of my builds, especially because Betaflight, at least, is not trying to run 32K anymore. The whole reason you needed DShot 1200 was so you could do 32K with gyrosync. You don't have to do that anymore. So just run DShot 600 and be happy. I don't think you'll notice the difference. There's a lot of great things that came from the 80s. I mean, it's nostalgia, but I remember some 80s television really liking. There's some good music that came from the 80s. There's some good things that came out of the 80s. All Day Air, thank you for $5. I'm using the Drone Dry Shake and Bike on my new Marmot build. Can I use it on buzzers, microphones, or have you tested on camera sensors? That's a good question. All Day Air, I know you can't use conformal on those things. Seems like the kind of thing I would have mentioned. No, here's the answer. Seems like the kind of thing I would have mentioned in my video review, but I kind of have forgotten, so I'm looking it up online. And I'm going to tell you, the answer is, let's see. Come on now. Come on now. I said it. Cover the barometer hole if applicable. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about cameras, though, does it? No. It doesn't seem to say that you shouldn't use it on cameras. If that's true, then that would be an advantage of it compared to conformal. I think you should ask Drone Dry. I appreciate your $5 donation. I don't have a definitive answer there. And I would ask Drone Dry before I tried to do that for sure. Anime in the 80s was very good. The 80s was a golden age for anime. It really was. Keely Ferris wants to know if he can get one of the HobbyMate D6 Duos on my desk. Thank you for noticing. HobbyMate is glad to notice. I don't know if you guys can see behind me. I've got 3 HobbyMate Duos. I've finally decided the HobbyMate Duo is my charger. It's my jam. I've been using ISDT for a long time. The ISDTs are good, but they're small, but they're not smaller once you have a power supply. And so for travel, like Drew brings his HobbyMate with him, and it's just, okay, so it only does 200 watts, but you just plug it into the wall. You don't have to travel with a power supply. And you can just set your phone on top of it, and it wirelessly charges your phone, which is pretty slick. So I've got 3 HobbyMates now, and they are my full-time chargers. The other thing about the ISDT is, have you guys been getting the abnormal connection error from your ISDT Q6? I get the abnormal connection error when I try to use some parallel boards, including my parallel board. I don't know why that is, but the HobbyMate doesn't do it. Streets FPV says, I want the upgraded OSD, but I'm scared to update. 4.0 seems like it has too many bugs as of now. Streets FPV, it really depends how you define a bug. Betaflight 4.0 doesn't have bugs in terms of, like, bugs. What it has is defaults that are not right for some builds. Now, some people would call that a bug. If you arm your quad and it goes and tries to fly to the moon, some people would say that's a bug. That's a matter of semantics. But Betaflight 4.0 is pretty solid. If you fly it and it's got a decent tune and your motors aren't hot, it's probably safe to use. But if I were flying over water, I might stick with what I knew worked as opposed to the latest release. I mean, if there was a bug in Betaflight, no one would know about it until the first time it crashed your quad in the water. So maybe even if Betaflight 4.0 were perfectly stable and everyone loved it, just because it's new, you still might not want to just jump on it. Okay, now Terminal LCPL says, what about the 1985 Ferrari? Yeah, okay. No, you're right. Like I said, there were some, I mean, like normal production cars. Obviously, this is a Ferrari is a beautiful, beautiful freaking car. No, that's I'm just going to look at this car for a few minutes. Where was that? This car or no, hang on. This car, hang on now. You guys decide. Okay. Baby, Ferrari. Baby. Here, wait, get a good picture. Here's a better picture. Baby, Ferrari. What do you think? Which is more beautiful? I won't be offended. You can say the truth. OCDFPV says, you have to have a power supply for the Duo too, don't you? The HobbyMate, if you want more than like 200 watts, then you have to have an external power supply. But that's fine. So at home, I use my big 2500 watt 24 volt power supply with the HobbyMates. But when I want to go on the road, I just boom, unplug it and bring a power cord and just bring it with me, and it's great. Let's see here. 1989 Lamborghini Countach. Yeah, no, there were some beautiful cars. I'm just thinking of like all 80s cars kind of look like this. Don't they? A lot of them, they just kind of look really? Okay, that's almost as good as a child of the 80s. This almost looks attractive to me. It's just so like, I don't know. Where were you going? They were doing the best they could. They were doing the best they could. But come on. I mean, like, come on. This is a better looking car. That's just a fact. Like, we can just do things with metal that we didn't used to be able to do. Okay, back to quadcopters. See, I'm getting distracted. Back to quadcopters. On topic. Yeah. Oh, shade music. The 300ZX. That's actually that's the winner right there, because the 300ZX. You know what else? The Mitsubishi Eclipse was a good one. Okay, anyway, we're off topic. I'm getting back on topic. Questions about quadcopters. That's what we're doing. 1980s quadcopters were also very bad. I have a quiz FPV says, I have a problem with my Fatshark Attitude V4. In the summer, the right lens shuts off. They're black. I'm wondering if it's because they're black and they overheat. Yes. Quiz, I do think they overheat. Do they have a fan? Could you get one of the... Is it possible for you to get a fan on them? I'm not sure if the Attitude V4 can be retrofitted with a fan. The bottom line, Quiz FPV, is I do think they're overheating, and I would reach out to support@fatshark.com. That's why you bought Fatsharks, because they have support. I mean, if you didn't buy them for that, you should have. So I would ask them, but I think, yeah, they're probably overheating. Jackson Tuttle wants to know, is it bad if when I plug the quad in, the initializing beeps aren't all synced? And also, if I want to use DShot 600, do I have to flash different firmware from DShot 1200? No, you do not have to flash different firmware, Jackson. Betaflight and BL Heli support DShot 600, DShot 1200, whatever. I do personally think you're going to get better results with 600 than 1200. It'll be a little bit more resistant to noise, and the additional latency of 1200, I doubt you're going to notice. If the beeps are not synced, it sometimes means that the ESCs are getting corrupted signals. If the ESCs barely support DShot 1200, So like if you have if your startup tones aren't synced on 1200, but they are synced on 600, that's the final straw that you need to be using 600. TripFlip says the chip on my TBS Unify VTX will burn my finger after a few minutes. Should I add a heatsink? No, the Unify is designed to operate in the airflow from the props. It is normal for the Unify to get, if it's in still air, to get above 90 degrees. That's Celsius. That's normal. It will shut itself down to prevent damage. And that's why if you leave it on long enough, you'll lose video. And what you do in that case is you arm the quad and you just idle the props until the video comes back. But basically, TripFlip, what I like to do is use the Real Pit. The Real Pit is an add-on board that lets you turn the VTX off entirely. Like just power it down. And then I only power it on when I'm ready to fly. There are some flight controllers with built-in switching, like the Lumineer Lux F7 Ultimate and the Matek F7 SE. So they have VTX switching built in, but basically that's how I keep them from overheating. Or just plug in, take off, go fly. You're fine. Scotian FPV wants to know, what do I need to set my Crossfire failsafe to after setting up return to home in Betaflight? Scotian, basically you just need to make sure that the Betaflight failsafe triggers. So I think what you need to do in Crossfire is set it to cut. I think that it may not even matter because digital serial protocols like Crossfire and SBus have a failsafe bit that they use to indicate when failsafe is happening, regardless of the failsafe settings. So basically, Scotian, I would just test it and see if failsafe activates in Betaflight when you turn your transmitter off. Test it somewhere, like with props off, somewhere safe. Maddish1337 wants to know, my quad only supports OneShot 125. What's the difference to DShot except for DShot commands like turtle mode? DShot doesn't need calibration, so there's no issue with endpoint calibration with DShot. But you say, what's the difference except for commands like turtle mode? I mean, as if turtle mode wasn't enough. Turtle mode is, frankly, turtle mode is, in my opinion, the best reason to use DShot. You know, I'll calibrate my multi-shot ESCs. I guess it's not the end of the world, but turtle mode, I can't live without. So that's what I would say. Toyota Supra. Yes. Now you guys are reminding me of all these excellent cars. Let's look at a 1980 Toyota Supra. Oh, see, no, look. No, this is a great example. This is not an attractive car. This is a Toyota Supra from 1980. It's not a good-looking car. This is exactly like the Mustang, the Fox body Mustang. Like, it's almost a good... It's nearly there. And it probably drives like hell. But look at the 1980 Supra versus, like, what if we go to, like, the 1988? Oh, see, now we're starting to get somewhere. Right? Am I right? And watch. Oh, hang on. 1990 Supra. See? It's getting... Look at this. Now that's a good-looking car. See? It's getting there. The more you go forward in time, the better looking the car is. And the 1980 Supra is just not a very good-looking car. I stand by my conclusion. I shouldn't have apologized to that guy. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, Cody, if you guys are talking about something like a BMW or a Buick, yeah... No, those, like the town car styles, those are a little bit more timeless than the sports cars. How do you plug your Duo into the wall? Mine doesn't have a plug. Please show me. You got me excited. They came out of the box with a plug. It's this plug, the same plug you use for like your DVR player or whatever. If you didn't come with one, you can just buy one. It just, the D6, the HobbyMate D6 Duo just plugs into the wall. Oliver Bogdan wants to know, can I change a FrSky trash can to a FrSky by putting a receiver on it? Yes. If you have a FrSky receiver, then you could change it to a FrSky receiver. The FrSky is using iBus, which is not inverted. The FrSky is going to use SBus, which is inverted. So you can't just use the exact same wires. You're going to need to move the signal wire to an inverted pad. But the flight controller supports SBus input. For example, let me show you. This is a Crazy Bee F3 flight controller. Hang on. Here's the pinout right here. Nope. Nope. Come on. Come on. Where's the S-bus input? Come on. I can't find the pinout diagram. Oh, come on. No, is it because they expect it to be with the built-in receiver? Can you just change the receiver type? Will that work? Could you just go to the configuration tab? Does the Crazy Bee always have the FrSky receiver built in? I don't think that's true. Yeah, 570. I'm wondering about that. Is there a different version of the Crazy Bee with with FrSky built in, or do all Crazy Bees have FrSky built in? I don't know about that. That's a good question. The bottom line is that yes. Oh, hush. Don't ever do this, kids. Don't ever do this. Had to turn off my V-Fly beeper. Props on. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. Alrighty. Let's see here. So if you take a look here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to connect to Betaflight, go to the configuration tab, and right here, if you have the option for SPI RX support and then FrSky X, that it may be just as simple as that if it has a built-in FrSky receiver on board. OCD FPV, are you sure you're talking about the HobbyMate D6 Duo, or maybe you're talking about a different charger? I don't know about that. The D6 Duo, it has a AC input for sure. Low Tone 20 Hertz wants to know, I have a video about switching the receiver on a Mobula. That may be worth it for you. Rod Clark wants to know, how do I get that funky Mario startup sound? Good question. That's a good question right there. Here's the answer. If you will check this video, I have a whole series of videos about BLU32 and Rod Clark. I'm going to just throw this in the chat for you, Rod. It shows you how to get the startup tone. There are many different startup tones you could get. I love the Mario mushroom. OCD FPV, the Hota and the HobbyMate. I can't remember who's the original manufacturer and who's the OEM. It's not a clone. It's like a legit relationship. I think they're the exact same product, though. Does the Hota not come with a AC input? I'm not sure about that. All Day Air wants to know, what milliamp hour 6S are you liking the most for freestyle? All Day Air, I currently fly with 1250s, but I want to order some of the new high C rate 1050s and try them and see if I like them better. What's the all-up weight of my Chameleon build, including battery? Burden FPV with a GoPro Hero Session that comes in around 650 grams and a 1500 milliamp hour pack. Dreams FPV, my quad is tuned, but what filters can I use in Betaflight to reduce my video noise? Dreams FPV, I would never take a perfect flying quad and screw up its flight in order to get the video cleaner. Figure out why your video is noisy. Add a capacitor, change to VBAT, change to 9-volt regulated power. Figure out why the video is noisy, but don't make the quad fly worse just to get the video clean. Travis Cook, I still get the quad boxes, but I stopped making the videos about them because I don't know. I just did. I should probably tell Rotor Riot I'm not making those videos anymore. I like the t-shirts. I still wear the t-shirts on channel, and people ask and I say quad box. And if there's something particularly good in the quad box, I'll do videos about them, but I kind of gave up on doing those updates. Some people liked them. Some I don't know. Just felt like filler content in some sense. It just wasn't what I wanted to be doing, so I stopped doing it. Anyway, there you go. That's the truth. Ricky Boost wants to know, AKK FX3, are they junk? AKK are not junk. you may get a bad one, but a lot of people feel that AKK is a great value proposition because they're cheap and they get the job done. Low Tone 20 Hertz wants to know about smoothing the throttle stick on the Tyrannus. I adjusted the spring tension. It was smooth. Now it's sticky. I'm not sure I know. Probably the metal spring and the plastic slider. I guess you don't mean the throttle stick, do you? Because the throttle stick doesn't have spring tension. It just has a metal bar that adjusts the slidey tension. You could try putting a little bit of grease or maybe Teflon. I don't know if that's a bad idea. For some reason, somebody's going to be like, no, don't do that. You could try putting a little grease on there if it's starting to wear. Drone Fart wants to know, what do you suggest for a new flyer on how to handle Betaflight 4? I haven't upgraded yet. Drone Fart, I got to tell you, Betaflight 4 has enough ins and outs. Like normally when a new version of Betaflight comes out, I do a total beginner's guide and I show how to set it up. There's so much new stuff in Betaflight 4 and the default settings are not reliable for 10 or 15% of people is the number I'm hearing thrown around. Like for 10 or 15% of people, maybe it's more, maybe it's less. Who knows the exact number? But for a significant, let's say not insignificant percentage of people, when they put Betaflight 4 on their quad, they get hot motors, they get flyaways, they get smoked motors. And I'm just not sure. I would say to an absolute beginner that that would be a great place to start. It's worth a try. Just try it somewhere safe where it won't fly away. 357, the defaults fly pretty well and are really safe. It might be worthwhile to stick to 357. My main quads are still on 357 because I'm still figuring. 4.0 has such a different way of, such a different feel. Like it seems like it's trying to do something similar to Flight 1 sim mode where it's like ultra tight because of high eye gains, but then you use feed forward to kind of loosen it up when you move the stick. And it's a very, very different feel. I'm not 100% sure I like it. I mean, it takes some getting used to. So you can tune it to feel however you want, but maybe I'm just going to stick with 357. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Chamber says, I set the runaway to 5 and it still does it. No, Chamber, it's running away. You're having the runaway problem, right? Chamber, here's the thing. Turn on the warning OSD element. When the quad falls out of the sky, does the OSD say runaway? If not, then you're not having runaways. If yes, then you're having runaways. That's where I would go. Yeah, Alan R., you can modify. Betaflight devs are going to be releasing Betaflight 4. I think it's 4.01 or 4.1. I'm not sure. But it's coming pretty soon with changes to the default PIDs that should make it more palatable to people overall. Drone Racer, you're not locked out when the quad flies away. Generally, what you have to do is disarm, and then it falls to the ground and breaks something. Just Hack It. Is there any real flight difference between BLHeli-S and BLHeli-32? Yeah, for sure. Just Hack It. The big difference is that BLHeli-32 gives you access to things like motor PWM frequency, auto timing, and these things can really help smooth out a quad who's having mid-throttle oscillations or rough motors. Those are some of the biggest things that change. Also, in BLHeli-32, you can do this. Yep. Musical startup tones. Come on. James Payne says, my quad inputs are a little delayed and they continue longer than I want. Can anyone help me? James Payne, the first thing I would do is go to the Betaflight receiver tab, move the sticks around, and see if they are actually delayed there in the receiver tab. You can also, in Betaflight 4.0, if you're running 4.0, you can turn on the stick overlay in the OSD to show you the stick inputs. Or in Betaflight 357 and earlier, you can put the throttle position in the OSD, and you can at least see the throttle position. What I'm trying to help you do is verify whether the flight controller is also seeing a delay. Usually when people get delayed stick inputs, what's happening is that you're actually having micro fail-safes and it's locking you out. You can, and if that's happening, then you want to figure out why you're having fail-safes. Let's see. They're not delayed in Betaflight. That's interesting. I think you're having failsafes then, James. That's my guess. Hawkeye FPV wants to know, where do I get Betaflight boot screens? Hawkeye, I can help you with that. What you need to do is, hold on a second. Let me go back to my face. Let me find this video, this document real quick. I'm sure, yeah, I knew I had it. So what you need to do is this. To make a Betaflight splash screen, hold on. What you need to do is you need to make, and the instructions are in the Betaflight configurator. This document is 288 by 72 pixels, and it needs to have 3 colors in it: black, white, and green. Green will be transparent, black will be black, and white will be white. You're going to create that graphic using your awesome graphical skills. The biggest challenge is getting it down to a low enough resolution. Like, I really had to play with this signature logo to get it to the resolution you want. And then in Betaflight, what you're going to do is, once you've got that file created, and by the way, I'm using Photoshop here because I happen to have Photoshop, but you can do it in Microsoft Paint or any, there are lots of different free image editors. All you need is black, white, and green. That's it. Then in Betaflight, you're going to go to the OSD tab. You're going to hit Font Manager. You're going to select Custom Image. You're going to pick the image. Notice that it's showing you right here the size and the pixels. And if these two things check off, then you're going to hit Upload Font, and you're going to upload font. You have to plug in the battery for this to work. If you don't have the battery plugged into your flight controller, this will appear to work, but it won't work. And the reason for that is that the OSD chip is often not powered from USB, so the upload doesn't actually happen if you're not plugging in a battery. So that's how you do Betaflight OSD custom images. Matthew Badow, I can't turn down somebody who's asking for help. I didn't see your question though, Matthew. Matthew Badow says, "Help, please." I'm scrolling back, Matthew, to try and find you. Help, please. Let's see. Where's Matthew? Who sees Matthew's question? I don't see you, Matthew. It's way back. I hope I get your question, Matthew. I can tell that you really need help. Props Off says, "I need a better solution to my HDO rapid fire powering. Stock battery sucks. Any suggestions?" Props Off, I like the 18650 case. Here's my goggles right here. Props Off, I like the 18650 case from Fatshark. More and more of my stuff has 18650 cells in it. So I just have a bunch of 18650s that I keep charged. It's easy to swap out. Lasts a good long time, but it's easy to swap out if you need to. So that's what I like to do. Troy Glossop wants to know, "I have a Rotor Riot Control flight controller. Is the JB4-in-1 ESC suitable to pair with it?" Yes, it is, Troy. If you buy the Riot Control, if you buy the JB4-in-1 ESC from the Rotor Riot store, you should get a plug that connects it to the Riot Control. If you buy the JB ESC anywhere else, you will need to make a custom plug or get the plug from Rotor Riot. It will not plug into the Riot Control flight controller by default, but if you have the right plug, it can work. Matthew Badow, let's see if your question came up. No. Matthew Badow, there you are. Okay, not sure what's the diff. Where are you at, dude? Where's your question? I don't see it. Kasiba wants to know, "What do you think about Stu's new video and the thesis that 3-inch will be the better race quads in the future?" I'm very skeptical about that. Unless the race format significantly changes, I don't see 3-inch taking off. Yeah. Here's the thing, Matthew. If you got the Emax Buzz out of the box and it flipped out, it's not the configuration. Everything about the Buzz was right out of the box. So, Matthew, I think you're putting your props on wrong. I think you're putting the props on wrong, Matthew. For most quadcopters, Betaflight quads... Shut up. Hang on. I'm sorry. That's the see, here's the thing, Matthew. The Emacs buzz came from Emacs ready to fly. So the motor direction's correct, the board alignment's correct, the motor order's correct. The only thing that could be causing a flip out at this point would be if you put the props on wrong. I'm sorry to this is a really tough thing to do, because there's like a 1% chance that it's something else and you're right, and now I'm just yelling at you for no reason. But a lot of the times people say, no, I swear that's right. But there's only like 4 things that cause a quad to flip out. And props on wrong is the only one it could be. So definitely make sure that you have, with standard direction motors, that the props are, the leading edge of the prop is facing the center line. Now, it's possible that the buzz comes configured for reversed props. So what you could do, Matthew, is this. In Betaflight, go into Betaflight and look right in the configuration tab right here. Look at the prop direction here and confirm that that is how you have installed the props. Because if this is ticked, then the motors are spinning the other way, and that's why it's flipping out. Yeah, Matthew, it's obviously the channel order is right, because the buzz is a ready to fly. So the buzz, the fact that it's happening to you on the buzz tells you that it's not the motor order, the board alignment, or the motor direction. It has to be something you're doing, which is it could be, if by flips over you don't mean, if you mean just as you raise the throttle, it goes, it could be that your channels aren't centered in your transmitter. Matthew, if you want to email me about this, we can work on this some more. I'd love to help you solve this one, but I think we're going to need to dig a little deeper. So email me, joshuabardwell@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it. What am I going to do? Somebody asked. My Hero 5 sessions are dying, and I can't get them anymore. You just screwed. Bite the bullet. Go for a Hero. 40 more grams of weight. Or get something like the Foxeer Box 2 or the RunCam 5 and give up SuperView. That's just it. Everybody I know, all the pro pilots I know, they're just flying GoPros. They've just moved on. I will say this. The image quality on the GoPro is way better than the Session. It's like it's a bigger sensor or something. It's way better. It's beautiful. So, I mean, you're putting $400 on the front of your quad, and when you crash it, you better hope you have a Best Buy nearby. But that's just it. The Sessions are going away. All day air, do you think my video's out of focus? I don't think so. Is my video out of focus? Let's see. I don't think so. That's pretty close. All right. There we go. Hey. Oh, Tektronic Mountain. One of my quads with Crossfire Nano RX only binds 25% of the times. How often are you binding your quads, Tektronic? I changed the receiver and it keeps happening. What's wrong? Well, if it's not the receiver, then it's the transmitter. Does it happen with all your quads? Ooh, maybe it's the transmitter. How fast is Beast class catching on? Well, Travis Cook, I've heard from a lot of people who are following along in my lead and building a Beast class. I still wouldn't say it was catching on. It's really expensive. Matthew, I'm sorry, dude, you're going to have to email me. You email me. This is my one rule. People say, I have this question. Will you help me for free? Sure. Yeah, no, I do that. That's all I do is I help people. I don't ask anything of you. Just email me. My email is joesmith@. No, you got to email me. That's the rule. See, here's how my brain works. I wake up in the morning. There's 70 emails in my inbox. I just start going through them. I'm not going to remember to email you. It's just the one concession I make to my own popularity. If you email me, I'll help you. If you wait for me to email you, it's probably not going to happen. Sorry. No offense. JoshuaBardwell@gmail.com. JoshuaBardwell@gmail.com. Very easy. You can email me. I'm serious too. Some people are like, hey, sorry to disturb. No, email me. Go for it. I will try to help you. That's it. Anyway. Here's the thing, Matthew. Here's the thing. Again, we're talking about if it flips out because a motor's the wrong direction or a prop's wrong. Look in the OSD tab. Turn on the warning. Everybody do this. Just do it right now. Turn on the warning element, because then you'll know if it's a runaway because it'll say runaway. There you go. License to drive, it's not the same. Andy RC made a video about adding SuperView to footage for free. YouTube removed Andy RC's video license to drive, not because of GoPro or anything. They took that video down, and I know this because when I made a video about adding SuperView, Andy said to me, hey, you better watch out. YouTube's going to give you a strike. And I looked at his video that got taken down. I found a cache of it. Andy linked to a service that lets you download other YouTube videos. And if you link to a service like Save From, well, I'm not even going to say the name of it. They'll figure it out. If you link to any service that lets you download YouTube videos, YouTube will give you a community guideline strike. So Andy RC's community guideline strike was because not because of anything to do with GoPro or SuperView. It was because he linked to one of those websites that lets you download stuff. So the problem license to drive is this. You can add nonlinear stretch to any footage using After Effects, obviously. There's also some free software out there that'll let you do it. Nuke Foundry, Stickman has a Nuke Foundry version, and I made a video about it. Here's the thing. It's not the same as SuperView because the point of SuperView is that the GoPro has a native 4:3 sensor. And when you record in 16:9, it slices off the top and the bottom of that sensor. So then going to SuperView gives you back the vertical field of view that you lost. If you take another camera and you put it in 4:3 mode, you're not necessarily getting back that vertical field of view. So it just depends on the exact, if the camera has a native 4:3 sensor and if recording in 4:3 mode gives you the full vertical field of view, then you can do a true SuperView. But a lot of times, even if you do a nonlinear stretch, you are not actually getting the vertical field of view of SuperView. Chamber, it says RX loss. That means it's fail-safing. So I would be looking at the receiver. I'll be looking at the connection between the receiver and the flight controller. Because probably if what happens is that you throttle up and then you get RX loss, probably it's not a radio fail-safe in the air. It's probably a wiring fail-safe on the quad. Okay. All right, guys. It is. Chamber, don't start with swapping the receiver. Just resolder all the wires. That's the first thing to suggest. All right, guys. It is about 10 o'clock. We're coming to the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for showing up and doing the Q&A with me. It's really good to be back. I was tired when I started the stream. Now I'm wide awake. I'm going to go probably feed my baby. I don't know. Thank you guys all for coming out. Thanks to everybody who asked questions. Thanks for everybody who, thanks to so many people who contributed, including some really big donations. Thank you very much. Thanks to all my patrons in the Discord server. If you would like to be one of my patrons, you can join me on Patreon for $2 a month or more if you prefer, but $2 is the minimum. And basically you get access to my Discord server. I help everybody for free anyway, but if you feel like you get value from my content, so that's one way you can support me. I will, yeah, Matthew, let's email me. Email me about it. Let's talk about it. If it's flipping out of the box, it's your transmitter or your props. I guarantee it. So we'll figure it out, Matthew. Email me. The other way, I'll do my spiel. The other way you can support me if you like, if you get value from my content, if I entertain you, if I teach you things, if I help you solve problems or spend your money wisely. The other way you can support me is by using my affiliate links at the bottom of any of my videos that have products in them. Look in the video description down below, and there are usually affiliate links to the products. And if you click one of those links, you can make any purchase, not just the linked item. Come on, YouTube. I'm talking here. You can make any purchase, not just the, here, go. Yeah, there you go. Not just the linked item. You can just click that link. There you go. Here's affiliate link. Just click that link. When you make any purchase, I get a small commission. It's an easy way for you to support me. It doesn't cost you anything. Especially, I always like to imagine people using my Amazon links. Because like a Get FPV link, I don't know, maybe somebody's buying something expensive. But like an Amazon link, I mean, you could buy like refrigerators, and cars, and furniture. I don't know about cars. I always like to imagine somebody using my affiliate links on Amazon to buy like home furnishings. I don't spend a lot of time imagining that. I'm really playing it up. Thank you guys so much for showing up. I'll be back Sunday at 1 p.m. for the Europeans or who didn't want to stay up late. This coming Sunday at 1 p.m. and Monday at 8 p.m. for the foreseeable future. And keep making videos this week. Videos about Betaflight 4.0. Still need to get my Marmot review out. Some things have changed. I had to re-record some parts of the Marmot review, so I'm still doing that. And I've got here the Cadex Raytel camera, which is blowing up. Looking forward to getting that out. And, of course, the usual educational content. That's going to do it, guys. I'm signing off. I'll see you guys next week.